We have a huge draft update coming from the Montreal Canadiens as their newest top draft target may have been revealed, and it is not who you might expect. We have to dive into this new report. Plus, another report stemming from Dave Pagnotta says that he believes the Montreal Canadiens could easily trade one of Guhle, Hutson, or Reinbacher coming up not so far from now. There's a lot to get into, so stick around for all of that on this episode of Habs Digest. But before we get into it, guys, if you're not subscribed, you're part of the over half the people who are watching this video are not, and we have daily Montreal Canadiens content, so if you want a home for your daily dose of Habs news, this is the spot to be. Let's get right into the video, Jesse, and is it really worth it? Is it really worth it to trade one of your star defensemen for a potential star forward? Well, Dave Pagnotta of the fourth period certainly thinks so. I'm going to break down some of the stuff he said recently. He suggested the Montreal Canadiens are aiming to bolster their forwards, especially in the pursuit of a top six scorer. The Habs seem poised to take a more aggressive approach to pursuing the goal during the offseason. Here are some quotes. From a Canadiens perspective, you're looking at all these pieces that you have. I don't know if there's necessarily that type of option available, part of the gig. Like, Kent Hughes and his staff are going to have to look to find if that's something they want to do, that type of player, speaking on that top six superstar level player, like I just mentioned. And he goes on to say that he thinks if the Habs are going to go big game hunting and utilizing one of their young defensemen, whether it's Guhle, Reinbacher, or Hutson, you're probably looking at somebody that would impact the first line. He basically says he thinks something similar to Dach and Newhook could go down. However, he thinks it's as big a trade as maybe trading Hutson, Reinbacher, or Guhle. Do you think the Habs would do that if that bona fide star level producer is made available for the top six? Are they going to have to get rid of one of these prize young defensemen?
Josh, we're going to get in trouble talking about trading Guhle or, especially Guhle, right? It's like he's so beloved by the Habs fans, but I get where he's coming from this. And I like the idea of making that aggressive play that you do need to do it kind of sometimes, right? But like Guhle, like he's not really like the guy that you build your organization around, but he's like one of the most important pieces. He's definitely an important part of building your organization. I have to feel like, as Martin St. Louis liken this to a house, he's a key pillar in this home, right? David Reinbacher, like you only get a guy like that drafting him early on, those kind of top, right-hand defensemen. And then Hutson, you have to feel like, the American connection there with Jeff Gordon. Like this guy loves Hutson for a reason. This guy really knows hockey. You have to feel like there's something there. But I mean, I get where it's coming from. Absolutely. I just feel like those three guys in particular are so beloved by this team, and rightfully so. So it's like, for sure, we got too many guys. I'm just wondering if we can leverage like maybe a type of defenseman that we have too much of, maybe going for more of like the offensive, because it seems like a lot of the guys that we have right now are those offensive type of guys. And you still need those guys like the Xhekaj, those great defenders, really, taking care of the physical side of the game for you. So I feel like a Xhekaj is kind of in that group of kind of almost those untouchables. But again, even though I would maybe look at like a Justin Barron or like a Logan Mailloux, and then the picks to sweeten it up. If we're really going for that first line, lay on the picks, these amazing young prospects we have, I think we need to keep them. Of course, we do need to part a certain way. And sometimes, obviously, to get something good back, you need to give a value. And I think that there is that there for Logan Mailloux, obviously, putting up amazing numbers. It would be really hard to part with him so early on. He's got this great size, great offensive skill, but I just feel like he's possibly more expendable, than these three. And even Jack, I would say those four names in that conversation there.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. I mean, he's definitely I'd say more replaceable, because I mean, yeah, he is in that fight for right D, and eventually he could be a really good NHL player, but that's the thing. A lot of these guys we don't know. But when it comes down to if you can get a bona fide guy who's, you already know what they've done in the NHL. I mean, Kirby, Dach, and Alex Newhook, we saw them in the NHL, and we had a much better idea of what the progression might look like. These prospects like Reinbacher and Hutson we haven't seen in the NHL. Guhle already looks like a top pair defenseman, basically. But here's the thing, you going for a top six, probably top line level scorer, if that's the guy you're going after. If imagine you're Montreal and someone is coming after one of your top forwards, someone's coming after Caufield. Are you really going to accept your kind of top AHL prospect that was a late first round pick and some picks? Maybe not, right? So when you're going after this high level forward, I think we might have to come to terms with the fact that one of these 3 defensemen could be that sweetener to get that level guy. But let us know what you guys think down below. Is it worth trading one of those 3 if it for sure nets us a guy that might be a 35-goal scorer or maybe 70, 80-point guy in the future? We'd love to hear from you. But Jesse, we got some more important stuff to talk about. Speaking of the draft and moving draft picks, there was some buzz on Twitter today after on BPM Sport. Stefan Gonzalez was on there, and he was speaking with Arber Basu a little bit on it as well. But according to William LeBlanc, who tweeted this, he said, according to Stefan Gonzalez, Habs management would have already met 4 times with Tij Iginla. Now, he says they love him, and he's their main target in the 7 to 8 range. That actually came out to not be true. The translation wasn't correct, but they were speaking about how it's likely that if it came down to Yzerman and Tij Iginla, then it would probably go to Tij Iginla. And actually, Stefan Gonzalez said, thank you for correcting. He never said that Tij was the Habs' main target, but meeting him 4 times is something nonetheless, Jesse. Now, Tij Iginla, he has scored 47 goals this year for the Kelowna Rockets. Of course, he is the son of former NHLer, fantastic player Jarome Iginla. He has shot up draft boards this year. 5 goals in 3 playoff games, 47 regular season goals after only getting 6 and basically not playing in the Memorial Cup last year with the Seattle Thunderbirds. He's now up as high as 12th on some mock drafts, with some having him a bit lower, but 12th is about the highest I've seen him. But now we're hearing the Habs could go after him at 6 or 7, but as per Dauber Prospects, his PNHLE, a value that projects the prospect's point potential at the NHL, well, that has just gone up and up and up this year to the borderline first-line superstar potential. Now, I think most scouts wouldn't say that he actually has that superstar. More of a top 6 guy with an incredible shot, a nice heavy game, not as much of a power forward as his dad, but he can shoot the puck, he can stick handle, and he's smart. What do you think about this, Jesse? Is Tij Iginla now? I know I went immediately to watch all these highlights, but he's an interesting guy that I think we didn't really have pegged as the Habs' top pick.
But an interesting selection all the same. You really have to feel, just for me, any player that really has that high sort of motor, friends of the show are definitely going to know that that's a player that I really, really like quite a bit. And it's definitely, when you're making these type of selections, you're not choosing where they're at right now, but you're choosing where they're going to be in the future. And that was a similar kind of philosophy with Slav. And it can be so hard to make those type of picks sometimes, right? For those projections, you're like, but what are we getting right now, right? But as we've seen with Slav, it is so worth it sometimes to try and make those longer term type of plays, right? Again, that's what's going to benefit you the most. Just like Slav, really a late riser. Like if we're looking at those differences in the goal scoring, like again, 6 goals in 48 games last year, compared to that 47 goals in 64 games this year, like that is a meteoric rise up the chart. And just the way that he plays, obviously he has that great shot, but he doesn't shy away from that physical side of the game. But what I really like, and I could see really translating well to Martin St. Louis' system, is really his ability to time his plays, using his speed, knowing really when to accelerate into those open places on the ice. So for me, this is definitely a guy to keep an eye on. But yeah, you can't lie that obviously there is a little bit of a skill differential there. There's a lot of those rough things. If we're looking at like some of the top guys like Demidov, everything. Obviously there is a little bit of a skill thing, but that's not everything. But you have to feel like we're probably going to draft before that 7, 8. But if we do fall around that range, I think he'd be an amazing selection.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if he continued to climb up these draft boards. I mean, these boards often change even this late into the season. As we get closer to the draft, there are so many things that can happen. Of course, the WHL playoffs, we'll see how he continues. 5 goals in 3 games. I mean, he's already on a torrid pace, and he has been all season long. And I really liked your point, Jesse. That's one thing with Tij Iginla. Like, he is fast. He's not game-breaking fast, but he's fast. Now, he's not huge either. He's 6 foot, 183, very average build, right? Now, Suzuki-sized in a way, actually maybe even skinnier. But he is also, like, for his IQ and for knowing how to get into these open spaces on offense and on defense occasionally too, even though that's not his strongest suit. His IQ for his age, I know you're all saying, what do you mean his age? He's the same age as everyone else. Well, the thing is, like, guys, he's 17 and he will be 17 until August. He is one of the youngest players in this draft class, and he's actually 8 months younger than Berkeley Catton. And when you're talking about players who are only 17, 18 years old, that 8 months can actually make a decent bit of difference, especially for their physicality. So there's a lot of stuff to love about Tij Iginla, and we're definitely going to be breaking it down a little bit more. But Jesse, just to top it off, just on their little note, they're comparing Tij Iginla to Yzerman. If you had to pick between the two, this is maybe putting you on the spot. I'll give my answer too. I think I would take Tij Iginla over Cole Yzerman if those are indeed the two guys the Habs are targeting. Of course, I would prefer a Kaiden Lindstrom personally. I would prefer a Zane Parekh. I know he's a defenseman. But if it came down to just Tij and Cole Yzerman, who would your choice be?
I'm really leaning towards a skill guy just as much as possible in our top 10. Now, obviously, there's other things that are part of that. For me, I just feel myself, and I feel like the Montreal Canadiens organization, in my opinion, they're going to pass on Cole Yzerman just because of the lack of the complete game. I think otherwise, we're picking Michkov last year if that is not so important for this team. And I think rightfully so. They're putting such an onus on the complete game. I really like how they're evaluating what's important, what really contributes to winning hockey. I think once playoff time comes around, we're going to be so happy that we do have those type of players. So obviously more skill with Yzerman there for sure, right? But that doesn't always equate. Let's say they're both kind of available. I would definitely lean more to the Tig side of things, just for, and getting involved in the play in all facets, which I just find is so important, right? So I would definitely have to lean with him for right now. But I mean, there's definitely a little bit more time here.
Well, the wonderful thing about this draft is that there are so many guys that could go in that 4 to 10 range. We have no idea who any of these teams are going to pick at this point. The rankings will become a bit clearer, and we'll hear more reports when we get to the actual draft. But for now, it could be anyone. And honestly, I'd be happy with anyone. If we got Yzerman, I'd be thrilled. If we got Tij Iginla, awesome. If we got Lindstrom, Parekh, Demidov, if we got Celebrini, I'd be happy. But there's so much stuff still to come on this. But this is the biggest Habs draft news we've got yet. What do you guys think about Tij Iginla? Are you as excited about him as we might be? Because, look, at least in my mind, after the recent draft history, if the Habs see something in him, maybe we should start taking a little bit of a deeper look. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, guys. You guys have been showing a crazy support. And hey, don't forget, we got live stream Mondays if you want to tune into those. And we will be going live during the draft lottery in about a month from now. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming up as Habs fans. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.